how does this initiative affect the state's cash flow? Revenues tend to come in January through June. Our expenditures go out July through December. We do some internal borrowing. Cash flow, such as in periods like this. How does this initiative affect that?
He's talking about transportation. Well, to the extent that they're using local government or to the extent that they want to use these local government funds and raise from the locals to, or the transportation funds to address the state's cash flow, then it probably could have an impact on the state's cash flow. But let's remind ourselves what happens when the state steals these local funds or borrows it for cash flow purposes. Then it puts the cities in a position of uncertainty. Then the cities can't budget, the cities can't plan because, you know, they're second in nature to the state. And so would it have an impact on the state's cash flow? Potentially, but the alternative is to, you know, really hurt the cities and their cash flow and their ability to plan for services and pass their budget.
I don't see it affecting cash flow of the state at all. This is money that's already coming to the cities, and now what they're doing is they're stealing that to try to balance their budget. They stole $2 billion from the cities in the state of California in this last go around, and they go with a $26 billion hole. It's not going to. Money's been coming to the cities all along. It hasn't been. I guess it's in this extra. Well, it's already coming there, so it doesn't. It's not affecting their cash flow.
The $2 billion was not taken from city general funds. It was taken from redevelopment agency revenue. No. That was revenue which would have gone to subsidize redevelopment projects. Some of that is public infrastructure, like Grand Theft, but a lot of it is subsidizing private businesses and 20% for low-income housing. Dollar for dollar, that money was not really taken by Sacramento. It was reallocated to local schools. Dollar for dollar, all of that money remained in those communities to fund local school districts. The money remained local. So the question is, do you want to fund redevelopment schemes, most of which are private development projects, or fully fund local schools? Local school districts are also local government, and they're the biggest losers. Tell them, let's take this redevelopment money and put it in the city general funds. That's what the cities wanted. They don't want public money to play developer. They wanted their general funds. That's why they'll subsidize a Walmart for $1 million, hoping to get maybe $10,000 back in sales tax. Let's have this turkey, but then bring it to public responsibility. Building classrooms and maintaining schools. You have private development, which is a private responsibility. I mean, if the NFL wants to build a stadium in Santa Clara, let them do it. But right now, Santa Clara is committed to $14 million in redevelopment to take whoever they are in San Francisco, the 49ers down in Santa Clara. If a Costco wants to locate my city, let them do it with their money. If 5 auto dealers want to move to Buena Park and they tell me as a Fullerton City Councilman, as they did, we're moving to Buena Park unless you give me public money to stay, is that really the kind of system we want? We need to fully fund education. If we have to do it at the expense of subsidizing shopping centers, then we should. But a lot of city council members feel they have to do this because if they don't spend this money on subsidizing private development, the auto dealers and the Walmarts and the Costco's and big boxes are going to go someplace else. So we need a comprehensive solution, not ballot box budgeting to put a silo around every government program.
Question directly. That is the fundamental issue behind Proposition 22.
Can you repeat the question?
The question was, do we believe that it's better for the state to have control of these city and county monies, or do we believe it's better to be local? I'm paraphrasing the question. That is the fundamental question to be asked in Proposition 22. Do we believe that our taxpayer dollars are better managed at the local level by our cities and counties, or do we believe that the state should be able to continue to dip into those funds and dictate however they want how they be spent? We trust our politicians in Sacramento and the Democratic leaderships in Sacramento more than we trust our city councils and counties.
You're describing problems that were created by the legislature.
There are a lot of problems created by this government. And what we really need is more reliable revenue for local government. We need a tax system which rewards balanced development. Right now, cities are rewarded if they have stores and malls because they get sales tax back. Cities don't get enough of their property tax back, and they ought to get more back. But if you create another lockbox or another dysfunctional program, you're going to make it worse for the legislature and for the voters to ever fix it. This is ballot box budgeting. We can criticize the legislature all we want, but we're going to have a better governor next year. We're going to have more Republicans in the legislature next year. What we really need to do is look at redevelopment, and instead of protecting it, say, let's take this money and put it in the general fund. Let's put it to pay police and fire, not only the things redevelopment can do, which are only capital projects and mostly subsidizing private businesses. That's where the cities really want this. And if you asked your council member, look, if I got rid of redevelopment in your city and gave you half the money to your general fund, You'd probably take it, but right now,
has been on the opposite side of this party on every substantive issue for the last 32 years since Prop 13. Number two, the League of Cities, along with the redevelopment agencies, employ a lot of lobbyists in Sacramento, and they don't report any of that money because they use the money that they generate from the $93 billion of bonds and all of the turnover of money to actually influence public policy. And I saw it firsthand when I had a redevelopment agency accountability measure that was shot down in the legislature because the redevelopment agencies didn't want it. The city of Bell, how do you suppose they got over $100,000 for their salary in the city of Bell? Well, they had extra agencies like redevelopment agencies that they gavelled down, had a 30-second meeting, adjourned, and they just got another $1,000 or $2,000 in pay. Because these redevelopment agencies, as you know, $93 billion in debt, none of it voted on by the people. Now we have 12% of our property tax revenue is diverted to pay for those bonds. Now, since Prop 13, property taxes have been accumulated by Sacramento and then sent back into the local government. That's what happened with property. So, this isn't pre-1978 in which the county got to keep its own property.
This convention to have this discussion. Let me make it abundantly clear, first and foremost, the League of California Cities sucks, okay? And I know they've got paid representatives here, and you guys spend a lot of your time and a lot of your money growing government, opposing the party. What you guys did on Prop 99 was shameful. And everybody in the League of Cities that supported, that opposed real eminent domain reform sucks. I have the utmost respect for Bob, but when I look at this ballot measure, I can't get past the fact that whether it happens tomorrow or next week, Arnold Schwarzenegger, like he always does, is going to sell us out for a bad budget deal, and invariably, over the objections of these four conservative legislators, they're going to raid local money again. And I had this long talk with Paul from the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, who couldn't be here, and because I want to know, why does Jarvis support 22? And he basically said, look, it wasn't an easy call, but the judgment call that we made was that the legislature, again, is going to raid local government, which is going to put on huge pressure for local people to have to decide, do we have police, do we have fire, do we raise taxes, or not? And so I would argue that Prop 22 is not perfect. It creates new problems in place of old problems. But you know what? The new problems are less than the old problems. And so where I come from on this is, first and foremost, I want to puke in my toilet because I don't like the League of Cities. I think that they always manage to write something that has a problem. I think the 2 to 5% that Bob Huff talked about is the usual overreach that they make. That having been said, I'm going to be voting to support Proposition 22 in the committee, not because I think it's ideal, but because Arnold Schwarzenegger is going to sell us out, these four legislators out, and we're going to have higher taxes at local government, and I just think that's something.